All right, welcome back to the show. At this time, we are joined by Kelli Stacy from The Athletic. She's doing a fantastic job over there covering the Arkansas Razorbacks. Welcome to the show, Kelli.
Thanks for having me.
Well, we appreciate you taking some time and being with us and helping us look forward to what we can expect to see out of the Arkansas football team this year. And I want to start at the head coaching position because obviously the Razorbacks made a change at head coach. And I've got to tell you that I love Sam Pittman. I think he was absolutely the best offensive line coach in the country. He was a guy that recruits just absolutely flock to because of his personality. I mean, he really was a great offensive line coach and a great recruiter. Now, with that said, I still was surprised when he was hired as the head coach directly from being an offensive line positional coach. So, my question for you is this: how surprised were you by this hire, and what has been your initial impression?
Well, whenever I first heard he was in the running for the position, I was a little bit shocked by it. But then, as you saw Mike Norvell go to FSU and Lane Kiffin end up at Ole Miss, it kind of became very clear that Arkansas's options were dwindling. And, I think with the connection that he already had at Arkansas from previously being the offensive line coach and associate head coach here, it made more sense. But I'm thinking that Hunter was just trusting in the fact that Sam Pittman has had 3 decades of experience as a coach under some really good head coaches in the past, like Kirby Smart at Georgia. And so I was less surprised by it when the news actually came out than I was initially when he was in the running. But just from sitting down and speaking with Sam and from the times that we've interacted so far, I think that it's a good fit, or as good of a fit as Arkansas could have gotten at the point, whenever there were so few coaches left on the board, really. He seems to really fit in here. Fans obviously love him. The team likes him so far. You've had a lot of players on social media who have talked about how much they really do love this staff already. And so far, I think he's made a good impression on the fan base and on the team.
Once again, we're talking to Kelli Stacy from The Athletic. Kelli, last week I had a chance to talk to a couple of recruits at Georgia that signed with Georgia, and both of them talked about the initial reason they chose Georgia was simply because of the relationship they had built with Sam Pittman. Now, they did stay with their commitment to Georgia after he left for Arkansas, but really recruits rave about their relationship with him, which I think is a great sign when he's trying to recruit to Arkansas. But another thing, and of course, you never know with new head coaches, right? Somebody that's never been a head coach before, you really don't know how they're going to respond in some of the areas that you need a head coach to be efficient at. But I do believe that Arkansas could not find a coach that loves being at Arkansas more than Sam Pittman. A lot of times, what you're going to have is guys that want to use Arkansas as a stepping stone to Georgia or Alabama or a school like that. But I believe Sam Pittman absolutely loves Arkansas. And I think there's something to be said for that. I think that will be reflected in his recruiting, it will be reflected in his coaching, and people will get behind that and like that. And again, it may not be the flashy hire that some had hoped for, but honestly, in the past, Arkansas's went with the flashy hires and they really haven't worked out that well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that Sam Pittman just exudes this love and appreciation for the state of Arkansas. And I feel like it's very contagious, and it's something that makes players want to play for him and makes recruits want to come to Arkansas if they've never even been to the state before. And, that's kind of the biggest thing he has going for him right now is just his personality and his love of this program. And as we've seen so far, it's helped him a lot in recruiting already.
Now, Kelli, you mentioned recruiting. The Arkansas Razorbacks have a big recruit headed their way, but not via high school, but instead the transfer portal. And that is Felipe Franks, who had been at Florida and really had been a lightning rod for criticism, but really had got off to a good start last season prior to the injury. So, my question for you is this: is he the clear cut favorite to be the next quarterback at Arkansas, or will there be a real competition there at QB?
I do think that he's the favorite just as of right now because I assume that they're looking for somebody with experience. And Arkansas really doesn't have anybody on the roster that has more than a few games of experience aside from Felipe Franks. Um, Word is that he's completely, well, he's 90 to 95% healthy as of last week, is what Sam Pittman said. But I think that he is the favorite just based on experience. I do think there will be some competition, though, because KJ Jefferson is just so good for being so young. We saw him in 2 games last season, and he's very talented for being a redshirt freshman, very athletic, dual threat quarterback. I do think that he's going to make this a challenge for Felipe Franks.
Absolutely. Well, one thing that's going to help both of them out is Rakeem Boyd announced that he's coming back for his senior season, a big boost for this offense because he's got a chance to be one of the best running backs in the country next year. What type of season are you expecting out of Boyd? I'm guessing that he's expecting big things since he chose to come back one more year.
Yeah, I am expecting a career season for Rakeem Boyd this year. I mean, as long as he can stay healthy, I don't see any reason why he's not one of the top rushers in the SEC and the nation next year. You know, he's very talented. He has what will be an experienced offensive line coming back. And, you know, he really wants to be part of the foundation of turning Arkansas around and kind of righting the ship. And that's one of the major reasons that he chose to come back. And it's only going to help his draft stock going forward.
Once again, we're talking to Kelli Stacy from The Athletic. Kelli, if this team is going to get better, this offensive line is going to have to get better. However, having Sam Pittman there will improve them. But not only that, they have quite a few players returning to this offensive line that should be much improved. So, my question for you is this: who do you think could step up for this offensive line and really help bring the improvement that is needed for the Razorbacks?
I definitely think Ricky Stromberg, the sophomore right guard, is going to have a big year. You know, he started as a true freshman last year, kind of got thrown in there after some injuries, and he played almost the entire season. He was really good for being, you know, just a freshman. And now with the combination of Sam Pittman and Brad Davis, and he's already put on nearly 30 pounds just in the off season alone, I think he's going to just have a really, really big year. And you know, Sam Pittman has been very impressed with him so far, and I can see him definitely stepping up and being one of the leaders as a younger guy this year.
Now, Kelli, we talked about how it's tough to know how good a first time head coach is going to do, but I believe one of the crucial things that must happen is they must hire good offensive and defensive coordinators. And I think that Sam Pittman has done a great job of that. And in fact, on the defensive side of the ball, I think he made a home run hire with former Missouri head coach Barry Odom. And Barry is saying that he could play the 3-4, he could play the 4-3. It will all be based upon the talent that he has as he gets in there and find what best will fit the system that he has. So my question for you is this: who should fans be looking for at Arkansas on this defense to take that next step and to be better on the defensive side of the football?
I feel like this is a pretty tough question because there are a few guys who could have really big years. Two of the main guys I would say to look for, though, are Mateo Soli, who, much like Ricky Stromberg, was thrown in out of injuries last year as a true freshman. He's also been gaining a lot of weight this offseason. He's expected to get a lot bigger. He's very, very athletic, very fast. I think that he's going to have a great season, as well as Joe Fouché, who's a safety. You know, Cam Curl decided to leave for the draft early. Joe Fouché is really going to need to step up and be more of a leader. And I think toward the end of last year, we saw a lot more consistency from him. And I think that's really going to carry over into his junior season. And then kind of as a wild card, I would say Jalen Catalon, because he barely saw any playing time last year in order to preserve his red shirt, but we heard incredible things about him. You know, he's kind of a ball hawk in fall camp last year. Sam Pittman already really likes him based on off-season training, so I think we're going to see him a lot more, whether it's vying for that starting safety position that's open or whether it's just coming in a backup role much more frequently than we saw him last year.
Once again, we're talking to Kelli Stacy from The Athletic. Kelli, as we look at this schedule, it's not going to be an easy first season for Coach Pittman because they play in the West, which I believe is going to begin to have some of the depth they've had in years past. I think it had dropped off depth wise the last couple of years, but I think it's headed back in that direction of having a lot of depth on that side of the division. They've got Nevada and Charleston Southern out of conference, but they've also got to go to Notre Dame. They also have to play the ULM Warhawks, which is not a great team, but they are a dangerous team that can really compete with some good teams from time to time. So they did draw Tennessee, which is a team that's up and coming, Missouri, which is a team that's a little bit in flux like them. But this schedule is not easy. And so my question for you is this, and now remember, we're not going to hold you to this. I know that they didn't have spring practices, so we've got limited information with a new coaching staff. So we're not going to hold you to it. But if you had to choose today, what is a reasonable expectation for wins for this 2020 Arkansas football team?
Uh, Based on Arkansas's non-conference issues the past two seasons, it was really hard to kind of decide on this. Right now, I'm going to say kind of reasonable would be four if we're going by them beating Nevada and Charleston Southern and ULM. And then they played some really close games against A&M last year, and it's just very hard to know where this team is as a first-year team and without having seen them yet. But I'm going to say four is kind of on the optimistic side. I'm going to say four is probably a good step up from the two wins that they've seen the past 2 years.
Absolutely. I think that's a good bar to set it at. I think if you get four, you've got to say, okay, we've got a, decent momentum going. If you get five, man, you're really happy. But again, it's kind of a fluid situation, and it wasn't helped by the fact that spring was canceled and they're trying to get so much new in and new players and different things and such as that. But again, I think you're right on the money. I think four is probably a good over under number for this team. Now, Kelly, I appreciate so much you coming and being on the show, and I, I really had a chance over the last week to kind of read some of the articles that you've been doing at the Athletic. You're doing a phenomenal job there. Could you share with our listeners where they can find you on social media, as well as where they can find you at on the Athletic as well?
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. They can find me on Twitter at Kelly_Stacy_, and that's KELLISTACY. And then they can find me on The Athletic. If you just go to our college football tab at the top, it'll pop up all the schools. You click on Arkansas, and all of my stories will be right there for you.
All right. Once again, Kelli Stacy from The Athletic. Kelly, thank you so much again, and we hope to get you on the show again real soon.